Hello, friends, and welcome back to NFC BEAST. This is the show that tackles all of the topics in the NFC East that you and your fan base cares the most about. We got 4 insiders from the NFC East to help you break it on down. Starting first in New York, Lou Albanese in the building, looking more and more like a model every day, Lou.
Yeah, it's another 20 pounds.
Jeff Kolb joins us from Dallas. Jeff, welcome back. We've missed you.
I've missed this. It's good to mix it up with you guys again.
Well, we're going to be mixing it up with the Philadelphia Go Birds Eagles all season long. Breland Moore here. If we had a boo button, Breland, I think that the entire panel... Wait, we've got a boo button. That one's for you, Breland. Welcome back to the show, and since you're here, we'll go ahead and start with you. Of course, last week was a battle of NFC East teams, that game between Dallas and Philadelphia. Before it even went down on the field, it went down between Jalen Carter as well as Dak Prescott. It was the spitting incident talked about throughout the entire NFL. Word came out that after being kicked out of the game, Jalen Carter fined, not suspended, no punishment for Dak Prescott as of the time of our recording. I want to start with you again here, Breland. The fine, the punishment, did it meet the crime?
I think so. Number one, no one has ever in the history of the NFL been suspended for spitting at or on someone else. So Jalen Carter already serving that ejection and counting as time served, I think it is more than enough. Plus the $57,000 plus. It was a little over $57,000 of a fine. I think that's more than enough. That being said, I mean, he was... Dak, I gotta tip my hat to Dak Prescott, right? Because he played that perfectly. He baited him so well. First of all, he instigated the thing. He spit at him first, and then Jalen Carter just took the bait. I'm hoping that this is a one-off incident and Jalen can control his emotions because he cannot be baited into those situations. He's the anchor of this defense, and mistakes like that just can't happen again. But yes, I think the punishment fit the crime. Let's move on. I'm tired of talking about Spitgate.
Breland, I've heard from other individuals that Dak baited him into this. Dak spit at the ground. Dak spit in front of him, seemingly yards in front of him. I don't even know if that was his intention to make any kind of contact with Jalen from a spit perspective. Is that fair to Dak to say that he baited him into it?
Yes, absolutely. And this whole, oh, I just spit at the ground thing. If Jalen Carter's asking, are you trying to spit at me? And that was directly from Dak Prescott's own mouth that Jalen Carter asked that. And instead of de-escalating the situation, he just kind of... so he absolutely baited him into that, and he played it perfectly. He got 15 yards, and he got the best player on defense ejected. So, credit to him, but like I said, Jalen Carter just cannot take that rage bait anymore. So hopefully this is a very important learning lesson for a young player.
Lou, on social media, I don't know if you saw it, but Keyshawn Johnson took things a step further. Keyshawn Johnson said that it was situations and actions like this which were the reason that Jalen Carter got into some trouble earlier on in his life. I didn't think that that was fair, but what was your take on everything?
No, I didn't think so.
Jalen
has
Georgia.
obviously... Jalen obviously has had some issues in his young adult life here, but I think it's apples and oranges. I'm not going to put it in the situation of what happened in Georgia with the car incident. I think you got to kind of leave room for growth. That being said, he did lose his cool a little bit. This rivalry is extremely heated, and when someone, at least in your perception, spits at you, your immediate reaction as a person is to retaliate, and I think he did person first, not team first there. But I'm sure this is, considering that it is almost a week later and we're still talking about it, I think this is very much a learning lesson for him.
Lou?
I agree with that. I don't think you can compare it to what happened in Georgia. Let's face facts. But he does need to grow up. And that's a big sign, and he has to learn from this. And if he doesn't learn from this, it's going to be people doing the same thing and baiting him. He's too important to the Eagles to fall for the trap. He needs to learn. He needs to grow up.
Jeff, I'm putting on for Dak right now. I don't like his name really mixed into this situation. You say it was one-on-one, so he's got to be included. But I don't think that Dak and his actions belong in the same conversation as Jalen Carter's here.
Well, I'm with Breland. Like, I don't want to take any credit away from Dak Prescott for how he did bait, in a sense, Jalen Carter into getting tossed from the game. I mean, what like a wily vet move there. But there's some context that I don't think really everybody is aware of about how Jalen Carter did start this. So Tyler Booker, first-round pick on the offensive line of the Cowboys, when he comes to Frisco after being drafted, is asked, who's the first guy you'd like to go up against on defense? Who are you looking forward to most? And he says Jalen Carter. So Carter, was talking smack to Tyler Booker at the start of this game. Dak steps up for his guy. Obviously, like in a fist fight, I'm taking Jalen Carter over Dak Prescott. So kudos on Dak Prescott for getting up in Jalen Carter's face and then getting him tossed out of the game so that he doesn't have to deal with Jalen Carter. I also thought it was funny. I guess technically they said he was assessed a one-game suspension, obviously, like retroactive to that first game, which is funny to me. Like, and then he won't, object or challenge that. Of course not. Like, the game's over. They can't go redo that. So kind of a funky situation. I think the punishment fit the crime. Everyone moves forward, and we get a fun new episode in this rivalry. I loved it.
All right. Well, we will move on from Spitgate now, and we'll talk about the game a little bit. Philadelphia Eagles, of course, go on to win that game by a final score of 24-20. We're moving on to next week, but before we do, Breland, I got to ask you, 24-20, was Dallas more impressive than you anticipated, or did your Eagles disappoint?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think, Dallas absolutely brought it, and we knew that they were going to bring their A game. That being said, when you lose a piece like Jalen Carter, the defense was a little bit chaotic, and you saw Dallas really take advantage of the absence of Jalen Carter, just punching right up the middle there multiple times, and his presence was absolutely missed. I think you can't really evaluate this defense in its entirety without Jalen Carter being there. I think that was a massive piece of why this game turned out the way that it is. However, that being said, that cornerback 2 position, Adoree Jackson was targeted and picked on all night long. He must be better fundamentally. He just cannot do that. Quinyon Mitchell, I think, played a pretty solid game, but that CB2 spot really, really is a concern. It was a concern all throughout training camp, and so they really need to grow that. But it's a little bit of a mix of both, but I'm gonna blame Jalen Carter's absence on a lot of the defensive issues.
Jeff, I wish you were here last week, because last week I told this panel, I said Dallas is going to come out strong.
You did?
They've been disrespected all offseason long. They're going to get up on the Eagles, but ultimately Philadelphia will come back to win a close game. That's what I told the panel. They all told me I was nuts and the Eagles were going to blow them out. So were you impressed by Dallas's performance, or is a loss a loss?
No, I was impressed, and I think certain things surprised me as far as like the run game. Breland was sort of mentioning it, being able to function. Yes, it makes a difference, Jalen Carter not being in there, but I didn't expect much from Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders, who both racked up close to 50 yards apiece. Of course, Sanders with the key fumble. I think the thing that impressed me the most was Dak Prescott, and I think a lot of people feel like this is a guy that's outside the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. Let's not forget, 2 years ago, this guy finished second in the MVP to Lamar Jackson. If you look at the stats and you didn't watch this game, then you go, okay, 21 of 34, 188 yards, no touchdown passes. That's not that impressive. But if you watch the throws that he made, some of the ones that CD dropped in that fourth quarter, CD Lamb, you saw Dak Prescott was really impressive, and they will need that. They're going to need to score points because that run defense is still a problem, and we saw that against the Eagles.
Philadelphia Eagles now 1-0 in that familiar place in the top of the NFC East. The other matchup that went down, the Washington Commanders knocked off the New York Giants 21-6 right here at Northwest Stadium. Lou, the story of this game was not the fact that the Giants lost. It was how anemic the offense looked again. I believe that in the last 3 home openers or 3 week ones, this Giants offense has scored a combined total of less than 20 points. Are the Giants done already, Lou?
Well, I don't know if they're done, but I never thought they were in it, so I can't say they're done. You can't be done if you're not in. But I'll say this. They're already calling for Jackson Dart to start. So Dart to start is the big headlines, and they're already trying to defend Russell Wilson. which we all knew when they signed him. What were you doing? Jameis Winston, what were you doing? But having said all that, they're in trouble. Their offense is horrible. Neighbors is getting bothered by a bad back. And the defensive line was strong, like we talked about, but the rest of the defense just wears down. That's a horrible offense, and it's not going to get any better. And throwing a rookie out there is not going to change it. But right now, with that situation on the offensive line, especially with no Andrew Thomas, you're going to get the kid killed. Let him stay on the sideline. Let Russell Wilson be killed. We can live without him. We don't want to hurt the rookie.
I'll tell you what, Lou, I took this the other way. I think that this was more about the Washington Commanders and their improved defense than it was about Russell Wilson especially. You speak about that Commanders defensive line, the additions of a Javon Kinlaw, the additions of a Dietrich Wise. They didn't just beat the Giants, they beat them up across that offensive line. What Russell Wilson ain't fitting to do is turn the clock back to the point that he's dangerous. He was getting pressure in his face, rarely had more than 3 seconds to even look down the field before he was getting hit in the mouth. So was this, Breland, I'll come to you, was this more about Russell Wilson's deficiencies or deficiencies within Brian Daboll and that New York Giants offense?
I'm going to be honest. I think it's a little bit of both here. Let Russ cook. I don't want what he's serving. He's washed at this point. Like, we're done with this experiment. However, I do agree with Lou. Jackson Dart, in my opinion, is not quite ready yet. And you see this model constantly where you have a kind of throwaway QB1 for a couple of games until the rookie is able to get their feet wet. You saw it with Mahomes, with Josh Allen. Jalen Hurts sat the majority of his rookie year, which is a little bit of a different scenario because Carson Wentz was there. Either year they're there. I don't think he's ready to start yet, but this is just not. Yes, absolutely. So, I don't necessarily think he's ready to go. I will agree with Lou on that. But yeah, the Giants are a hot mess, and they're not getting any better. And then defensively, you lose your starting linebacker, Micah McFadden, and immediately the Commanders take advantage of it with a Zach Ertz touchdown. This is disarray, and I'm not sure. Lou, let's just put it this way. I think you're in for a long year.
In for a long year. I tell you what.
I knew that going in. I know you did.
I think it's too early to say that the Giants are done. I still think they win 6 or 7 games. And we'll talk about that a little bit more coming up. In just a moment, we're also going to talk about next week's matchups. Commanders versus Green Bay, Giants versus Big D, all of that and more next on NFC Beast. Talking the NFC East, this, of course, is the NFC Beast. All right, another NFC East matchup going down this weekend. We got the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. 2 squads currently sitting at 0-1. Jeff, I'm coming to you first here. Who needs this game more, the Giants or the Cowboys?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I think we were talking in the first block about, are the Giants done already or not? So, surprise, surprise, I'm going Dallas because I think that Dallas still has, a shot at something, maybe some playoff hopes. And when you look at the schedule, if the Cowboys lose this game, then you go to Chicago next week, maybe that's winnable. But then the Packers come here with Micah Parsons the week after that. Surprising probably, but I don't feel too hot about that one. So the prospects of a brand new head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, coming out to a 1-3 start, I don't love that for him. And you'll hear me say this all fall long, but there is a gauntlet waiting for the Cowboys right around Thanksgiving time when they get Philly before Thanksgiving, and then Kansas City. The Lions are in there. The Chargers are in there. Washington's in there. I mean, it could be 6 straight games where Dallas is not favored. So they have to stockpile some wins early in this season. I think that the Cowboys need this game more. I think the Giants are going to lose a lot, and this will probably be one of them. Dak Prescott has owned New York 12 straight wins against the G-Men. I'm a little bit worried that Daniel Jones is gone, even though he looks pretty good in Indy. He just was the whipping boy for this Cowboys team. I like the Cowboys this week. I think that they need this game more, though.
I think everybody looks better after they leave New York. But, Lou, the Giants have a gauntlet of their own. If they lose this game to Dallas, they could be looking at an 0-4 start, and the entire bottom falls out of this thing. Who needs this game more?
Well, I'll say the Cowboys only because they're home. This is 2 horrible teams. They're not going anywhere, and Dallas is not making the playoffs. Let's not kid ourselves. That's a dream. But The Giants, with all their offensive problems, and Neighbors is now with the bad back, I can't see them going into Dallas and beating Dallas. I just don't. But if they do, then that gets the heat off of Dable. But I think 0-2 for the Giants only because they're on the road. If this game was at Giants Stadium, I give the Giants more of a shot, but not in Dallas.
Lou, quickly expound upon that. What is the situation when Neighbors back? Is this a real thing, or is this just an injury report thing?
Giants keep saying they're not concerned, but he had problems last week going into last week, week 1. He wasn't that effective. He got into it with Brian Dable on the sidelines with frustration, which he does way too often. He's very immature when it comes to that. Again, they're saying there's no problem. It's on the injury report, and they keep downplaying it, but, it's affecting him. He missed a lot of training camp because of it. So you can downplay it all you want, but when your best player is having problems with his back, you're going to have a problem.
All right, so both of you say that the Cowboys need this more. I'm going to go the other way and say that the Giants need it more because of that leadership of a Dak Prescott. I think the Cowboys could start 0-2. We saw them get off to a horrible start last year, and then even without Dak kind of pick things up. I think the Cowboys are in a better position than the Giants. But moving on to a team that wins all the time, far too often. One day this show is going to be more balanced than other teams are winning a lot as well. But Breland, your Eagles going on the road to face the Chiefs here this week. They're the favorite right now. The favorite on the road in Arrowhead. Number one, should you all be the favorite? Number two, should you be on upset alert?
Yes, and honestly, this is a coin toss here. So the Chiefs are a really interesting little Mod Podge this season. Patrick Mahomes has never lost 3 consecutive games. That kind of concerns me. That being said, they're down Xavier Worthy, and Jalen Royals is not practicing either. His receiver core is just decimated at this point. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but that Sao Paulo game, I saw something very atypical of a Chiefs team, an Andy Reid-led Chiefs team. They were infighting. They were running into each other, number one, literally, like on the field. And then Chris Jones is going after other members of the defense, Drew Tranquil. They're arguing on national TV, in huddles, on the sidelines, things like that. And it made me wonder, is this Chiefs team in disarray? Are they cooked? Is something inherently wrong? And I'm not saying, I truly believe a cooked Chiefs team is still going to finish 12-5. That being said, I do think that the Eagles should be favored here, and I am not necessarily concerned that they're going to be upset. However, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. Could be. But as long as they stick with what they know and Jalen Carter, doesn't get kicked out, we should be all right in there.
No, look, I agree with you. I think you look at, obviously, what it was that the Eagles were able to do to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Not only beat them, but absolutely beat them up. The Chiefs coming off of an underwhelming performance in Week 1. The Eagles still look like the Eagles. I believe they should be favored as well. Jeff, who should be the favorite in this game?
I kind of like the Chiefs. I don't know. I wasn't convinced by that Philly defense, so.
Of course you do.
I like Mahomes. Yeah, why not? It's shocking coming here from Dallas. No, I think Philly has to figure some things out with a lot of moving parts on that defense. You mentioned a little bit, Breland, in the secondary, there's still some question marks, and so. Mahomes, what makes him amazing is he figures out somebody to go to. I mean, you saw Hollywood Brown. He wasn't always such a featured guy last year. We need to target him 16 times. You make it work. You don't win the game, but I think Mahomes can figure some things out here. I have a hard time believing the Chiefs go to 0-2.
That's right. And the final game that we got to preview at least is Washington Commanders on Thursday night, headed to Lambeau Field. Historic Lambeau Field, one of 5 primetime games for the Commanders. We'll pick this one in just a moment. But to give you an idea for what the Commanders have to do in this matchup, number one, they got to be able to run the ball so that a Micah Parsons, Jeff, you know him well, kind of gave up on him, does not completely wreck this game for the team. And I believe if you're the Washington Commanders, you get into the fourth quarter, because with all of this experience on the squad, the Wagners, the Ertz, the McLaurins, etc., Packers a really young team. At the end of the day, if it gets into the fourth, I believe that Washington comes out victorious. But we'll give the picks on that game and every other team in the NFC East. That's coming up next, right here on The Beast.
It's 3 o'clock. 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 3 o'clock.
Welcome back to NFC BEAST, and now it is time for us to tell you who is going to win these big-time matchups this weekend. Now, Breland, I know that undercover, your fans don't want to hear this, but I know undercover how big of a fan of the burgundy and gold that you are. I just told you why Washington was going to go into Green Bay and defeat the Packers by a final score of 31-28 on Thursday night. Who wins this game and why?
I actually think it's going to be a close one, but I don't know. Micah Parsons was really impressive in his debut there, and he has 10.5 sacks in his career during 8 games against Washington, 4.5 against Jaden Daniels himself. So I don't know. It's going to be a really close one to me, but I think I have to go Green Bay. I'm sorry, Chad.
That's right. You're being absolutely ridiculous, and this is the benefit of us producing this show right here in the nation's capital. Jeff, tell Breland why the Commanders win this game.
Yeah, obviously I'm going to disagree with Breland. No. I'm going Green Bay. Listen, in case you guys hadn't heard, we've had like 2 major superstar athletes traded from Dallas this year. It started with this basketball guy, Luka Doncic, and we ragged on him, or at least the management did. Oh, he doesn't play defense. Get rid of him, he's working out all right. And then Micah Parsons, he doesn't do run defense. Well, last week, obviously he had the sack and the pressures, but they totally bottled up David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs with Detroit. So that's really where I think this game gets decided. Washington, as you know, Chad, had, 220 rushing yards last week? If that happens, Washington wins. If Parsons and Green Bay shut that down, I think the Packers win.
Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill. Lou, who wins this one?
I like Green Bay at home. They're home, right?
Man.
Anyhow, Green Bay looked really good against Detroit. Really good against Detroit. And I think with a healthy Love, remember, he got hurt that opener. And that defense now, they are the youngest team in football, but Parsons is going to put them to another level. They have so many weapons. That's a team to watch in the NFC.
So you're all on Green Bay. I'm telling you, we'll be back here next week talking about another Commanders victory. Go ahead and flip the page right now, though. Talk about that Philly and Chiefs game that's coming up. Breland, who wins? What's your final score?
So I think it's going to be another close one. As I mentioned, I gave you different reasons why both teams could potentially pull this off, but I think I'm going to go Philadelphia. I'm going to go like 28-21. Let's see how that works. But I definitely still have to ride with the Birds because the Birds are riding with us, right? Birds.
Lou.
Close game. I think the Chiefs pull it out. Very close game. I'm going to say like 24-21 even. I think the Chiefs will pull it out, but I think they have problems. And I think you saw again last week with all that infighting was very similar to what was happening in the Super Bowl. They don't handle losing well. And if a losing streak hits, they're going to have a hard time handling it.
I tell you what, I think that all dynasties eventually fall down, and I think that this is the crumbling of this Kansas City Chief team. No disrespect to them. They deserve all of the flowers that they have built, all of the statues that they have erected in their name. But this week, it pains me to say that Breland's Philadelphia Eagles go into Arrowhead. They knock them down and completely knock them off of the board of the contenders this week. Philadelphia not only wins, they win big again against the Chiefs. Jeff, tell me why I'm wrong.
Because there's no way that the Chiefs are starting 0-2 post-engagement. I mean, Taylor Swift will not have this. Travis Kelce's got to go out and do right by her. And so I'll go 26-23 because, that's like a multiple of 13. That's her number. I'll give the Chiefs 26 points.
Wow, Chiefs by 2 scores. That is a big and bold prediction. We'll come right back to you, Jeff. We talked about this earlier, Dallas versus the Giants. Give me that score prediction.
Man, I like Dallas 27-14 maybe. I think that, again, Dak Prescott, he's dominated this organization. The one thing, I just want to put this on record, that defensive front, Lou, scares me. What the Giants have up there with Lawrence and obviously the rookie out of Penn State, Abdul Carter. I was there in 2020. It wasn't a defensive lineman that caused the injury, but when Dak Prescott destroys his ankle with Logan Ryan making that tackle. That happened here in Arlington. So I think the Cowboys on paper should blow out the Giants, but I'm a little bit worried about Dak Prescott's health.
All right, Lou?
I think it's close because the Giants' defense is real. At least the line is. So I'll say 17-10 Cowboys.
Man.
Because Cowboys are home, but their defense is real, and they should be worried about Prescott's health.
Lou, if you don't believe in the Giants, who's going to believe in the New York Giants? No one around the nation is going to believe
Brian
in the New
Dable's
York...
mom.
Oh, okay. All right. That's a very good answer there.
That's about it. That's about it. I think only Brian Dable's mom, and that's about it.
I think that you might be right there. I tell you what, I believe that this New York Giants team, I've said it now for this will be the third consecutive week, is better than a lot of people around the country believe. Jeff, you made the point. It's not just that front four, that front five, that linebacking core. Bobby Okereke, I believe that he's underrated. I think that Paulson Adebo played very well against Terry, my scary Terry, and those safeties are better. The defense can help to carry this team, but ultimately the Dallas Cowboys still win because Russell Wilson and this New York Giants offense really has no weapons at all. I'm saying Cowboys by a final score of 18-15. Breland, bring us home.
So I had 21-10 Cowboys here. Yeah, I think the Giants need some serious help, but there are bright spots. But I still think the Cowboys win their home opener.
No, well, we're all on the Cowboys, and I am the only one choosing the Commanders, and the Birds, I believe, will win as well. On behalf of our astounding guests, this is NFC Beast.